Hello and welcome back to the Checkpoint Reach podcast. I'm your host, Luke Elder. Today I'm joined by Randle and we have a special guest, Zealand. How you doing, mate?
I'm okay. You know, waking up at 1 and 2 and 3 in the afternoon. I'm now awake, I think.
Welcome to my world, mate. That's the same for me, so I feel your pain there. But man, yeah, we really appreciate joining, mate. Been talking to you a little bit on Instagram, trying to get this happening, and obviously we're here. Gonna have a bit of a chat about Football Manager, so really appreciate you joining.
That is usually why I'm anywhere.
But before we do get started going into this chat, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Me and Randy are currently streaming Football Manager as well, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursdays, 11 p.m. GMT. If you want to check us out on Twitch and YouTube, links are all in the description below. But anyway, let's get rid of all that boring stuff and move into some chatting about Football Manager. And to be honest, Zealand, my first question I've got written down really is just like, how did you get into Football Manager? Because obviously you're not from the UK and really? That tends to be... I know. I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to reveal it to you now.
How dare you, first off.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, man, how you ended up stumbling into footy, man.
I mean, I played FIFA growing up, and I had the old World Cup video game on my Nintendo DS. And then I remember there was like the loading screen before each match, and it had a glitch where it was always the Saudi Arabian loading screen when it was like camels and the Saudi flag, and I was trying to figure out what it's a really interesting experience as like a 9-year-old or whatever. So I played a lot of FIFA and soccer games and stuff, and became obsessed and then dominant over FIFA career mode, like just, you know, take over a team and just roll right into whatever the goal was. I don't even remember FIFA, to be honest. I haven't played it in 5 years, and that is because
lucky you, mate.
At a certain point I broke the addiction. Well, I never crossed into Ultimate Team. I'm not. I don't enjoy the super toxicity. I can, you know, I enjoy a mild amount. You know, I don't want to OD on it. I OD it pretty low.
Yeah.
So I never got super into Ultimate Team, and I guess that's why my friend came to me at a certain point. Was like, hey, there's this game. It's like FIFA career mode, but it's just, you know, it's better. It's just more detailed. It's this, it's that. So we bought it. We started a tandem save with like Real Madrid and Barcelona. It lasted about 5 minutes. That we were just like, we looked at everything like, I don't know what the is going on. So we just kind of like we just quit. And over the course of a year, you know, every few months I'd be sitting in the back of a lecture. I'm like, sure, I'll fire it up. And so then I'd turn it on. I'd go and open a save and start doing something, and then nothing would happen. And at a certain point, I started to save, and you cross that threshold of, now all of a sudden I know enough about the game to be able to actually play it. And so that save was with Celtic, and like 9 years into that save, led by Andy Robertson and Mark O'Hara, who Mark O'Hara's a real player too, but it was apparently in FM14 was like legend ability level as a 16-year-old or something. He's a mulligan now. He plays for like Motherwell or something in Scotland, but he scored a Champions League winning goal for me in FM14. Wow. Yeah, so
doesn't get much bigger than that, mate.
No, yeah, that was probably still the highlight of his actual career, was that moment on my save.
We need to find him. We need to let him know.
No, I found him before, because I'm pretty sure he was real. Like, he didn't have the regen face, you know, because Andy Robertson obviously went on to be okay. He was the only other like Scottish guy, and Stuart Armstrong was involved in that too. But we won the Champions League, and after that I was hooked. I'd just play in lecture. I'd come home. You know, I'd play while I was watching TV, because it doesn't require all of your attention all the time, but I would always have it open.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how I got into the game. And, you know, by the time I get to the senior year of college, I'm like, you know, my girlfriend would walk into the apartment and there'd be like a dent in the trash can, and she'd be like, "You lose again." I was like, "Oh, shut up."
Mate, we've 100% all been there with their girlfriends as well. And so they just don't understand the pain.
It's like, we'd be out at dinner. It's like, you're in a bad mood. Like, how's the save going? And I'm like, you know the answer to that.
Let's not talk about it.
I broke a previous laptop from playing Football Manager. I think I was in the FA Cup final, and I conceded a last minute goal, and I just hit it, and it got wrote off. Yeah, so we've all been there.
I just pretend you'd be like a somber in-person coach, and now it's kind of applicable, because when it happens on Twitch, I can't just sit there and go like, "What the?" I can't just like put my fist through the screen or something. I have to be like, well, boys, that happens because inside I'm dying. I mean, like inside I'm just melting away, but on the outside I'm like, it's okay. Like,
I think we all feel your pain, mate. I think people who enjoy Football Manager can see that, can understand the feeling of rage that's burning up inside. But mate, to hold it back on stream, that's pretty impressive. I mean, we struggle when obviously we're not as well streamed as you, Zealand, but when we're playing, man, sometimes when you lose and just trying to hold in the frustrations is really hard. Yeah. I mean, Randle, you're a bit upset these days, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're our current save now, so we started off in the Championship, so we thought we'd get the Sleeping Giants back into the Premier League, so Luke went with Nottingham Forest on Blackburn Rovers, so admittedly had the tougher task.
Oh, here we go.
First time of asking. Forest wins the league under Luke's guidance. I lose in the playoffs. Really struggled. But I came up the second year of asking, now in the Premier League, and I'm suffering. I'm near the bottom of the league. I'm doing terribly, so it's stressful. Yeah,
it's just one of those, man. It's one of those. But actually, has my camera gone off? I feel like my camera's gone off.
Your camera's off.
Oh yeah, your camera's definitely off. Now I've enjoyed the wholesome family content.
So I'll just ask quickly then, in terms of you getting into Football Manager, so Celtic was your first proper save. So it might have been that save, it might have been a later save, but what would you say was your best transfer? So your hidden gem that sort of blew up for you?
Oh no, it was that save. Definitely. There was the first one, signed a guy named Teo Balic from So I think he was on Rijeka, right? You like that? That was
yeah,
good.
that was okay. Wonderful, mate.
So mid-table Croatian team, right? I signed him. He was a god, Teo Balic. But the problem is the match engine itself was not very. It didn't show a lot of fancy plays, and so he would always score the same goal. It was always like he'd just run in from the edge of the box to the left wing and just hit it into the top corner. That was like all he could do, but he did it all the time, and it was. It was great. Yeah. I mean, it's people dump on the match engine, but it really does improve significantly because that was 6 years ago and that was just a nothing burger compared to what we have now.
Well, yeah. Randle, you play with the match engine. I'm still the classic. I'm still classic 2D, which is, I don't know why. I just never really got into the match engine. I don't know if you ever played the game, Zealand, LMA Manager back in the day.
No.
Well, see, that match engine I used to love, but I've just never really transitioned into the Football Manager side. I feel like I'm a dinosaur. I'm like Roy Hodgson.
The only excusable reason to do that is nostalgia and like you're just more comfortable with it. I've heard people arguing that it's better, and that is just patently false and unacceptable. And I'm glad you're not one of those people. I've got probably the most fiery argument, that and calling it soccer. Those are the two most aggressive arguments I get into.
Yeah,
regularly.
Is it actually called Soccer Manager in America? Or
no, of course, of course not. And it's not weird. I wasn't sitting here like, oh, Football Manager, what's that about? Like, no, I get it. But, But that's the other question is like, well, did you know that we call it football? I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah,
Didn't have a clue.
Nobody let me know.
I'm sure that people let you know on the stream all the time.
People have been propagandized in their brain. They don't. I don't know. I do not understand the phenomenon of hating the word soccer so aggressively, other than the fact that it's intrinsically tied to like America as a whole, which is so hateable that it just, yeah. But,
well, don't worry, you're not going to get any hate from me and Randle.
No hate. No
hate.
It's
all good. Yeah, I must admit, when it comes to the engine, yeah, that is not a hill to die on. I would never say it was better. I think like you hit the nail on the head for me. It's just traditional. I don't know. I get that nostalgic feeling, and I stick to it. And it's funny though, because when you're playing the game, I see a tackle with a 2D guy, and I'm still like, red card, ref. I've no idea.
You can't actually tell what it is.
You have no idea if it was or not. It's
great skill.
Yeah.
Guy goes down in the box. I'm like, right, that's a pen.
You do say that quite often, to be fair. I think you're just calling for it to get the
yeah, I do.
Result you want.
Mate, I can't help it. So Zealand, when it comes to Football Manager, like, what is one of those saves that sticks out in your memory that you're like, okay, that was probably arguably my most favourite save that I've ever done? Do you have one, or have you just played so many now that they all kind of mush into one?
See, I haven't. When you think about it in terms of how many saves I have ever played on Football Manager, the number is probably shockingly low. I mean, I'm not somebody that in terms of playing for actual enjoyment, and I'm not talking about like I started it for an experiment or I started it for some competition or it's like a streamer showdown or something. If like those don't count, I had one on FM14. The next Football Manager I bought was FM17. Played FM14 for 3 years. And then bought FM17, did one very long, I'm talking 2049 journeyman save. All the way up, was at Barcelona competing for Champions Leagues, but I had there's a bunch of mini stories in there. On FM18, I did 2 saves. I did a journeyman and then Road to Glory with an Icelandic team. In FM19, I did 1 save, which was bouncing around all of the top leagues in Europe. And once I won the league, I had to move on to another league. And so it was like Turkey and then Hungary and then Portugal and around. And then in FM20, I did 3 saves. And now I'm done 1 in FM21. So I'm pretty sure there's less than 10, like all time that I've actually played, right? When you explain it out like that.
Yeah.
And my favorite one's Bate, though. Yeah.
Yes, I have seen obviously some of your videos or streams with that, and man, you created a pretty decent team.
That team was sick. Won the Champions League. The oldest player on the registered team was 25.
That's
so we
crazy,
really
man.
built a juggernaut. It was so special. I don't think anything's ever gonna beat that, because when I started that save, there were like 10, 15 people watching. And then when it ended, there were 1,400 people watching. And so there was kind of like the rise in the save reflected me finding out that, hey, guess what? This is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Cool. Here you go. So the rise in the save went along with that. And in 9 years, we got all the way to, that was nuts. We did not deserve to win that game, but I'm so happy we did.
Who was it that you beat in the final?
PSG. Oh God, they were so much better than us.
You got the job done though, man. That's all that matters. See,
heroic.
That kind of reminds me a little bit of when I talk about favorite saves on Football Manager, I go to I took over a team called Ukraine after in the 2nd division of Ukraine. Started unemployed and got that job, and I ended up in my mind I was like, right, get him into the Prem, do a decent job, take over the Kiev job, and then end Shakhtar Donetsk's dominance. Didn't work out like that. It actually played out. I won the league 6 years straight after getting promoted. And I took Ukraine after to the Champions League final, where I got scammed. I got Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in the final. What is that all about? Wasn't even close.
Did you ever win it? Did you ever actually win it?
No, I lost in the final, and I won the Europa League. I beat Liverpool on penalties in the Europa League final. That was it. So my dominance wasn't quite to your level, but the journey I went on, I managed them for I think I played 15 seasons. And then obviously you're just in regen territory. All my team was just full of regens. And by that point, I was just like, oh God, I think I've got to stop. I need a break from the game.
Yeah, I know. I love the regen territory. I love regen territory. Because then you get to the point where you look at Barcelona and there's some 37-year-old dude who's not real, but has a super... He has a super real looking career. He's a defensive midfielder. He's got, 150 caps for Spain or something. I think my save in 2049, when I was managing Barcelona, I had these people that were I know you, you're Xavi. But they were regens, and they'd gone through the entire game while I was there, and been in the first team for 20 years or whatever.
Well, that's actually something you brought out, wasn't it? The regen face pack as well.
Yeah, we did the regen face pack, which was essentially just a guilty pleasure of mine, because I got to a point where people will come to me with these ideas. It happens a lot more than you think, because everybody has their own little, a significant portion of the population gets off on studying the game. Yeah. I figured out the best way to develop a player. Here's my data, And there's certain people whose brains just work like that, and they all come to me, right? And so I'm and so I'll sit there and like, for YouTube videos, and you kind of sift through like this doesn't make a lot of sense, or this doesn't really matter, but like cool, you say like, hey man, good job, but like they're gonna use this. And then there's the one guy who's like, yeah, I think I can get real faces on regens that are like AI generated, and then you just kind of stop and you go, oh wait, hold on, did you actually just say that? And so it started up a like secret channel in the Discord with everybody that we needed. I was like, I will pay for the server space that you need. You can get whoever you need into this room in the Discord to kind of talk about it. And then 6 months later, it was done. I mean, it had a few bugs, but we came out with it kind of right when the game launched, which was an excellent 48 hours of no sleep. And then and then we dropped the new version in January that's like bug free and 100% functional.
Nice.
But it's just super cool. Like it just gets the right faces on people. It's the sort of thing that I'm surprised SI didn't do. I understand why I've talked to them. I understand why they don't, but I'm surprised that they had.
Yeah, that is one thing I tend to turn off every year, to be honest. The regen faces. I don't know why. I used to hate how you'd get so far in season and then you just see some, like I click on a player and I'd want to like them, and then I've seen the horror regen phase and I'm put off. I'm like, I need to get rid of that. It's going to put me off every time.
It's actually one of the common complaints about the regen face pack is that they're all too attractive, which is kind of a funny. I'm not kidding. They'll be like, there's no ugly people in this face pack, and I'm like, okay. So the way the AI works is it is essentially just it's a recombination of like a million faces that we entered in over time for different ethnicities, and I won't get into the gory details of it, but it's a lot of faces, and each face is just like a reassemblage of those million faces. It's like when you have a stadium singing a Taylor Swift song at a Taylor Swift concert, it always sounds good, but if you pulled out 10 random people, they would all sound bad singing by themselves. That's why they're all like super hot. You get like these girls will message me and be like, you sure this guy's not real? I'm like, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Just trying to find him on Instagram or something.
Like he's really cute, and I'm like,
at Regen 111.
That was actually me. I did the modeling for that.
Wait, I honestly, how can you look at a regen character and think, wow, he's attractive? I'm gonna have to send a message about that.
I didn't notice that, but well, that's what you think, right? I mean, it's like I'm not a particularly attractive guy. There's this those one collection of like 4 British dudes with the super tight pants and super tight polos. Like those dudes think they're attractive, but most people go through life and just like, I'm okay. But like when you send somebody a message and you're like, these faces are too attractive, like what are you saying about yourself? That's what I was thinking. I am uglier than everybody in this face pack. Why is that?
I can just imagine them sat on Football Manager, like looking at the regen pack, and as they turn to the right, they catch a glimpse of the mirror, and they're like, "This isn't on."
I'm not happy about this.
I would miss the cut. And then there are the other people that are like, "Can you put my face in the face pack?" And I'm like, "You don't even understand how annoying it would be to do that." Not to mention, I don't look like a professional footballer, and neither do you. So, get you in there.
To be fair, though, man, it's some good work, some great efforts, because I have downloaded them and put them in now in my game. So I do thank you for that, because I don't have to complain anymore about regens. Don't worry, I'm not going to complain either to you about them being too attractive. That's not my go.
Just enjoy the view. That's just exactly. Enjoy the view.
Makes the game better. But yeah, let's see, what else have I got here. So yeah, I wanted to actually, before we carried on, talk about Football Manager. One thing I did want to ask you about was actually real football, and just how you got into that, and if you had a team that you specifically follow, or are you just kind of someone who just enjoys football for what it is?
Yeah, I am somebody that just enjoys the sport for what it is. I didn't grow up with a club. I did, but in different sports in America, in sports that are basically only played in the United States, or largely, like basketball's fairly popular in a lot of other places now. But so I know, I am a fan of teams. I did grow up in a world where my dad was like putting on the shirt and, the little stick on tattoos, and we were going to the games at an early age. So I know that's the question I get. It's like, well, you just don't even know what it's like. I'm like, no, I do. I just don't. For like, the MLS didn't exist when I was born. Like,
it's not much you can do with that.
Exactly. It's impossible for you to fathom. But soccer is the new sport in the United States. It's like this. Where it's probably like basketball is in a lot of Eastern Europe, or like Slovenia, where I don't know if you know anything about basketball and this isn't relevant, but like Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah, I know him.
It's almost like Pulisic showing up in the Premier League, where everybody goes, wait a second, why are you like?
Why are you here?
Not why are you here, but it's just like you aren't supposed to be this good. Like that's that's like this. It feels like this should mean something. The fact that you're like actually one of the best players here. Obviously, Pulisic hasn't been as good this year, but somebody just needs to put him in a cryo chamber for a year and then take him out, and his hamstring will be healed, and then he'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it's a new sport. Like I had to explain the rules to my dad, actually, like I'm explaining, we're watching the World Cup and I'm like, okay, here's what offside is. And I'm like, I got the salt and pepper shaker on the table,
the classic. Yeah.
So it's this reverse where like my dad didn't explain it to me. It's my generation that grew up playing FIFA with the Premier League on TV every weekend. That is the first one that's into the sport. It's the same generation as Pulisic, and he's actually younger than me, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks for that, mate. He's younger than all of us here.
Yeah, like Gio like 7 years younger than me, and I'm like,
painful.
That one hurts. Yeah, that one hurts. Like I like that. Well, maybe I could bully him off the ball physically. No, I would. Yeah.
No, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere near him, would he? We'd just get skinned.
You wouldn't even see him. I saw the list of like top 20 wonder kids from Let It Keep, or as my brother said this morning when I was on a Discord call with him, and this is not relevant to anything. It's just hilarious. He goes like, "Hey man, did you see that Let A Queep video? The other the Let A Queep they released a list," and I was like, I didn't even correct him. Like he's going to say "Let A Queep" for the rest of his life. I'm really going to enjoy that.
Use that.
Exactly. Reina was 5th on their under 20. Like there were 2 Americans on that list. There's only 1 Argentinian, and then I'm sitting here like, okay,
interesting. Things are shifting.
Oh, I'm telling you, 2026 World Cup. It's hard to hang your hat on like 2 to 3 matches, because anything can happen in 2 to 3 matches. I mean, like Iran beats Spain, and all of a sudden it all goes to like Germany loses to South Korea. Like things can happen even if you're the better team.
Yeah.
The United States is going to be good enough to potentially win it. I'm talking like have the same chance as Croatia did in 2018. Like
outside shot,
an outside shot to actually win in 2026, which is going to be exciting, because that's definitely the first time I'll be able to like say that.
Fully support them, get behind them, and have a actual.
I'm always When John Brooks scored that goal against Ghana, I ran a circle around my house.
See, I kind of can understand where you're coming from in a way, because I'm Welsh, so obviously Wales have only ever qualified for 2 tournaments ever. Well, 3 now, but we're not playing. Obviously, we'll be playing this summer, but 1 before I was even born, where Pele knocked us out, so obviously before I was born. And then in 2016 when we got to the Euro semi-final, and man, that was such a fun time. But you go from supporting your national team thinking, well, we got absolutely no chance, we're not even going to get a sniff, and then when you go on that journey of you beat Belgium in the quarters, and you're like, could we actually win this? Yeah. We could actually win this. And then obviously we didn't.
Sam Vokes! Yeah.
Oh, mate. The pub where I was at, it went mad when Vokes scored. That was probably one of the best night celebrations ever. But Champions League wins with Liverpool. But obviously, Randle, a bit different for you, being English. You go into every tournament thinking you've got a chance.
Underwhelming every tournament. A lot of English fans think that we're going to win it every year automatically. I don't. Like I say, we've got such good young players coming through, but we just underperform every single tournament. And I'm just used to that now. So when we did progress, and then we got knocked out by Iceland, it was like, oh, great, yeah, we've got a chance. And we got knocked out by Iceland. So it's kind of like, all right, okay, yeah, see you in 2 years for the next tournament.
At least you made it.
You made the World Cup semi-final. I mean, when Kieran Trippier scored that goal, even you had to believe.
Of course. I thought, this is it. But only at that point, not pre-tournament, not in the early stages. I'm still thinking, well, something's going to happen here. Something's going to happen. But if you look now, going to the next tournament, some of the young players that we've got, that could potentially play in that team. Then I think, all right, we've got Gareth Southgate as the manager. And
I said the same thing about Berhalter, but he's winning me over slowly.
Slowly but surely.
I think he's a terrible manager, but his ability to recruit dual nationals, which is like a uniquely very American thing, because everybody's somehow American. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold is eligible for the United States. I mean, I don't even know crazy. How this like everybody is eligible for the U.S. And there's definitely some sort of political commentary to go along with that, because we have a military base in like every country in the world. But whatever. And that's like Jermaine Jones and John Brooks is just like, oh, military father, German mother. Okay, but he got Serginho Dest, and that's when I think everybody was like, wait a second, we might not hate you.
This recruitment's good.
Everybody just assumed that Dest was going to play for the Netherlands, but there was something about like the friends he made in the U.S. youth teams or whatever, and then Berhalter saying like, "Look, you're going to play every time." That won him over. Yeah, exactly. And he's not the only one. Yunus Musa is the other one who's like got 27 nationalities and is choosing to play for the U.S. Over England, which
pretty crazy.
Yeah, we'll hold our breath on that.
Good get. Well, it could turn out, like you said, 2026. Could be all leading there. Could be leading there.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Because I'm
so good.
As you don't like follow a particular team, per se, looking at like the American youngsters coming through, say like Dest and players like that, do you gravitate towards them when you're looking at teams playing? So say, for Chelsea, you tend to support Chelsea as opposed to Man United, for example, for that reason.
I'm supporting Pulisic, right? Because when I was, think about it this way: when I was 14, who was I watching? Was I watching DeMarcus Beasley? I don't even know where he was.
Clint Dempsey?
Yeah. It's like Fabian Johnson running around with Wolfsburg or something. Right? Dempsey was on Fulham for like a year and a half. Like 2 years. I think Donovan played for Everton for like 14 games. There was. Like Steve Cherundolo was in the Bundesliga for some reason. Like there was nobody that you looked over and you were like, the players in Europe weren't significantly better than the players in the MLS. They just happened to be in Europe. Like Josie Altidore moved to Sunderland and we're like, here we go. And he never played.
One goal in like 29 games.
I know. Yeah. After scoring 30 goals in the Eredivisie, I have no idea how that happened, but there was nobody like that. And then Pulisic showed up. And then the U.S. media machine just like woke up again. It was like the Freddie Adu part 2. It's nobody believed it because of so many flops. The last one being at our last World Cup, because we didn't make the last one, was Julian Green.
Mm-hmm.
When we went in 2014. We literally called Julian Green over Landon Donovan. And everybody was like, oh boy, like it was the last two. That was the decision. And they took Julian Green and he scored against Belgium. In the last World Cup match that we played, the last World Cup goal by the United States was Julian Green. And so he was 18. He's like, the dude didn't even starting regularly until like 2 years ago in Bundesliga 3.
Yeah, it's madness.
Absolute aggressive flop. And to his credit, he has kind of turned it around. He's one of the better players in Bundesliga 2. And people are kind of whispering like, well, what if his team gets promoted? Then maybe he's like the Phoenix that rises from. He's going to make the World Cup team in 2022, and it's just going to be this weird like 8-year hiatus from the national team, and then here's Julian Green again,
back again.
But we'd had this succession of Freddie Adu and then Julian Green, and then there was some other like smaller pop-ups in between. When Pulisic stuck, and everybody went, wait, it's like he's actually good, and then it turned into a tidal wave of people like. Every week now, there's a new American that's going over to Europe, and they're not just going over to be different. They're not going and playing in the Eredivisie. There's nothing wrong with that, and there are a few that are, like Ricky Ledesma or something. But like Aronson just went to Salzburg, and now all of a sudden he's a starting player there. Chris Richards, who's the guy that Bayern just loaned out to Hoffenheim, and now he's starting every week. Like there's this huge they just loaned a couple guys to the English Championship. It's a
Jordan Morris at Swansea.
Jordan Morris, Daryl DK. We got loaned out. He's Barnett. I'm trying. Last time I said Barnett, somebody got really mad at me. So.
What a weird thing to get mad at, but
I can talk about the U.S. kind of exploding all day because it's hard to explain I mean, if you're Welsh, you kind of get it, but you get this fandom for these teams because you watch them. You're like, you are specifically rooting that person to do well.
Yeah.
And if you're English, where you got a whole league of players all around the place all the time, it's a feeling that I'm sure you can try and understand, but there's this weird national pride that goes into it where even like, yeah, you reading Twitter, I'll go on Twitter and just type in Pulisic just to see what English people are saying about Christian and make sure that they're not,
Well, it's involved if it's anything.
Exactly. Yeah. If they're slating him too hard, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get in there. Roll up the sleeves. Here we go.
Well, no, mate, you make a good point. Like with Wales and stuff, we obviously had Bale and they ended up going to Madrid and winning 3 Champions Leagues? Maybe it was 3. But yeah, you end up always checking. Yeah, that is a sore one as a Liverpool fan because obviously, yeah. Carry us. I don't want to go into that. But yeah, but
that is the best goal in the history of the Champions League final. And he gets no love for it at all because it was so overshadowed by Karius.
So good.
Yeah.
Champions League final. And Zidane still didn't play him after that.
yeah. So did the fans. Yeah, you get the white handkerchiefs out at Real Madrid. That is the worst thing ever, that. I mean, how spoiled... I mean, I'm coming for you Real Madrid fans now. How spoiled is that club to get out white handkerchiefs when you're not happy because you're sat in 3rd? There's so many teams are struggling. You're there nah, go, time, you're up.
Always reminds me of the Colosseum.
Yeah.
When they used to want someone dead and it'd all be yeah, kill him. Yeah. It's a bit like that at Real Madrid, yeah. Yeah,
it's weird. But you do attach to that. I don't know, he's the icon of Wales. It's he's our hope. He's our great hope. He can actually deliver us something. And at the time, it was just qualifying us for a tournament, which he has done, to be fair to him. So you do grow that attachment and bond to these players as a nation that doesn't succeed on the, obviously, international stage too often. So I kind of understand.
Trinidad and Tobago is tough. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I can imagine. I bet it is one hard place to travel to and get a win.
That pitch was suspect. That's all. That was we lost by 2 goals in Trinidad. We didn't deserve to go to the World Cup. That's that.
I was going to say you're starting to sound a bit like Klopp. the pitch. It was a bit windy. It was too hot.
The length of the grass. It's just way too high.
Can't play football on that. Oh man, but yeah. So then we'll take it back to obviously Football Manager and stuff. And I wanted to talk about some of your. I don't know. Maybe Randle said it when I was out fixing my camera, but talking about just past gems that you've signed or players that you've grown attached to on the game because you've discovered them. They're this wonder kid, and then obviously you go to check them in real life, see how they're doing. And quite a few times on Football Manager, these wonder kids don't live up to the hype.
They get a bad rap for that. A vast majority of the time, I think the guys that they pegged actually do a really good job. I think that's because scouting is a lot easier than a lot of people say. So yeah, they have this huge scouting network of a bunch of people from India to wherever that their job is to rate all of the players on this particular team. And I know the guy that does it for Wolves, and it's not a super complicated process. You're just trying to hit a certain overall rating, and you just kind of fill it. So, on Adama Traore, if you give him 20 pace and 20 acceleration, which you have to do, then you have to really torpedo maybe even certain areas of his game that he's better at than you'd think, just because you have to hit some overall rating to balance the match engine. But scouting's pretty easy, and you turn deciding whether somebody's good or not. And so these people that come from kind of abstract places, the Football Manager usually gets right. Andy Robertson obviously was a good example. He was at Dundee United in FM14 when I picked him up and went on to win the Champions League. He was starting at left back, and there's, at the time in the start of the game, if you walked up and told him that he would start on a Champions League winning team, he probably would not have thought that was in the realm of possibility. In Camavinga last year, they absolutely nailed that one. I had never heard of that dude before last year. Cool. And then I made a list of people you haven't heard of that are good last year, and Camavinga was 8th. And he ended up being this huge
he's
deal.
Number 1 on the game this year, isn't he? I think
he is. Yeah, he's number 1. No.
Yeah, outrageous.
And I'd say 15 or 16 of the 20 people that were on that list have first team appearances now. And so Football Manager's success rate is probably 70-75%. But I spend so much time dealing in regions usually that I don't sign too many players that I get attached to anymore that are like wonder kids in real life, because that would also be kind of cheating, which is why I tend to start in lower leagues, because I make videos telling you who the best wonder kids are to sign. So if I start at Manchester United or something, I know who to get. I already know. I know the best move. I know the best deals. I make the videos. I'm like, you can sign this guy for $5 million right now.
Yeah.
And so I then remove myself from being able to sign that person if I want to play fairly. And so I can't go get Moises Caicedo out of Ecuador, who's going to be this great player in United, in classic United fashion, messed up the negotiation, and I guarantee you they'll try and buy him for $75 million 3 years from now. they could have bought. They're like, oh, we don't want to pay 5, we want to pay 3. And Independiente del Valle is like, okay, screw you. Somebody else is going to pay 5.
Yeah.
But see, I know where those people are. I know how to get them. So I typically don't actually do saves with them all that often. But there is what is his name? Oh, I did do a save with Dortmund last year.
What nationality is he?
Mark Antony. Oh, I changed his name. That's why I couldn't remember it. He's Brazilian. Antony.
The winger.
Yeah. Just Antony, and he went to Ajax. That's probably the last guy that I signed. I signed him to Dortmund from South America, and he ended up winning the Champions League in the starting 11 with that team. So that's probably the last guy that I was like, hey, I've never heard of you, but you're good.
Yeah, I mean, that when we're playing saves, actually, so many players that you end up just stumbling upon, and it's just got Wonder Kid in the description. I'm like, I watch a lot of football. I've never heard of this lad. And he turns out to be a worldie. It happens so many times. Actually, Rand, you're quite good with the old Wonder Kids.
That's like you're saying that you tend to go regens. I tend to not do a save past the regen save. So once the regens are sort of taken over, I lose interest. And I'm all about progressing the youth. So I actively go seek out these young players, get the young teams, and then build them up to their potential. So every save I do, I'm scouring the scouting network. So I don't know how much you can get each player for. I'm not like that, but I know what players will do well at what age and what they can turn into. So I try and build a team. 22, I am in the team like Blackburn now. I've just been promoted to the Premier League, and I've signed 8 youngsters who could potentially be wonder kids who have in previous saves. But I've got to wait for them to sort of play first team football, because I'm pulling them out of Belgium's, under 20s team, things like that. So not first team ready. So whereas you, Luke, you tend to go for experience. I'm looking to play these youngsters. I'll always look through my youth teams and play them over the established players. Yeah.
Yeah, the Football Manager provides some variety there, because they do have the range of potential. So like Camavinga's is 160 to 190, which means if he hits 160, if some other dude's got 140 to 170 potential, which is not dime a dozen, but there are a lot of people that have 140 to 170. They could conceivably, just because of the random roll, have a higher potential than Camavinga. And so there is some variety where it's not just automatic. There are certain players, like Bukayo Saka has the same potential in every game. Like if they're very sure about somebody, they don't put a range in. But and Greenwood, I think, has the same potential. It doesn't mean they'll reach it, because they could get hurt or their training could suck or whatever. But
if it progresses how it should. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a spice of life to the way that old Randle's playing.
Yeah. See, I must admit though, I'm not in the same vein as you, Zealand, in the sense that I know all the Wonder Kids and I stay away. But a lot of the times I don't like actually signing Wonder Kids, because I feel like, I don't know, I like to try and sign players that I like in real life, and I don't know how many other Football Manager players are like that too. But I'm like,
a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, always, I want this winger. That's it.
They always wonder why they're broke. That's what I was going to say. Broke. They'll be like, well, I only know Mbappe, so I signed him for 200 million. What did I do wrong? I'm like,
hey, don't worry. I'm more like Harry Redknapp. I'm a wheeler dealer. I don't bring in the big bucks. Saying that, I spent 160 million with Forest. It turns out. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's amazing how that happens.
just adds up. I don't know. Wait, Randall's always going to the board begging for more money. And getting...
Yeah, it works with Blackburn, Just play that spoilt child. Say, I want this player. I can't afford him. Can you get him for me? They're like, yeah, all right. I get him. So it's worked in that save, So you got to do what you got to do.
See, I remember back in the day when I was in college. So I guess 10 years ago. But the player back then was Danny Wilson, centre back. He was a youngster at Rangers at the time.
Rangers, yeah.
And I'd sign him. He'd be a worldie, and then everyone, like most saves you do with your mates, everyone tried to get Danny Wilson. And I remember the day Liverpool signed him, and I was like, mate, he's gonna be the boy. That is our future right there. One of the worst defenders we ever had. Didn't quite live up to it. I've never been so gutted. That was a younger me though, so I guess I can look
Learn
past
from your
that.
mistakes.
Yeah, you must have some players that you've grown attached to on Footy Man that just haven't developed in real life like you wished.
Gabby Goal.
Gabby
I don't know
Goal.
what he's. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's still in. He's like back in Brazil, but that dude's sick. He's still sick in football. Like every time you start a save, Football Manager, go grab Gabby Goal. He's like the best player in South America. Football Manager still loves him.
Yeah,
and he's just. I think in real life he's kind of turned it around. I think he bagged like 30-something goals in Brazil last season. But maybe he's ready now at 25.
Yeah,
to come over.
Yeah, maybe he's just taking a little bit of time to get him there. Yeah.
Late bloomer, Jamie Vardy style. He'll be okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. I think when it comes to Football Manager as well, like I am quite in depth at times, but I'm not always like I don't do my own training and stuff like that. Is that something, Zealand, that you are a big fan of, going real in depth into the tactical side of things and all the training aspects of the game and analysing? Because now, obviously, on the new Football Manager, you get all this data that hasn't been there in past games that I grew up on. So there's even more data for you to get, obviously, in depth on if you wanted to. Is that something you're a massive fan of, or do you just kind of tend to stay away from that side of things?
I mean, I know how all of it works. But do I use all of it all the time while I play? No. I mean, everybody makes the deal with themselves. How fast do I want the game to go compared to how I am not going through every player on the other team in a regular league game.
Yeah.
I'm not like, well, how does my right wing match up against their left back? And like looking at attributes and running a comparison. But when I get to a Champions League final, or when I've got a huge match coming up, then you start to apply a lot of that extra data. You start to apply a lot of that, like the tools that you have available to you. But the thing about Football Manager is that it has the built-in feature of like staff responsibilities. So whatever you don't want to do and just isn't fun for you, you just get rid of it. Sign a decent staff member, and they will do it okay. And honestly, by and large, they'll do it better than most people who don't know how to do it in the first place. They'll do a better job, especially with things like scouting and training. So you can just leave that, but take control of your scouting. That's just such a fun part of the game. Finding players, that feeling of like, this is the one. I see the stars.
Yeah. That's probably one of the best bits. I mean, we used to have a friend, me and Randle, that we'd play an online save with. And it'd be like, okay, we'll start this save. One of the ones that sticks out for me and Randle was like, I don't know, like 4 years ago, newly promoted clubs. It was like Palace, Cardiff, and Hull. Yes, Hull. So we're like, yes, we'll do that. Okay. So we spend like 6 hours, 5 hours, whatever, playing all night. He's made his signings, blah, blah, blah. We go into work the next day. He comes up to us, lads, I've been thinking, I think we should restart. I got players I want to sign. It's like, lad, we just spent 6 hours playing that. He's like, no, my scouting was all wrong. I've got it now. I've got it.
I found the players I want this time.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times that we went through that with this guy. Have you ever had that, Zealand, where you've been playing online saves with friends or maybe your brother or something, and they just keep going, oh no, let's restart. I didn't get my scouting right. I need to get these players.
I don't play saves online with anybody because I'm that guy.
Oh god!
Like I have a group of friends that I play with. None of them stream, but they go by acronyms so that when I refer to them when I'm like streaming or making videos or whatever, people know that it's my brother who's Centurion, and then my best friend, his name's Antarx or whatever, as those are their gamer tags. And when we play any game out of the three of us, I'm always the one that's like, but did we consider this? Or they're like, it would be like playing a turn-based game, and I am always the last person to hit continue. Like, who are we waiting on? Zealand. Oh, Like, come on, man. It's like one of those. And so I know if we did a save, they'd be like done in 3 seconds. And I'd be sitting there like, well, I'm, and then I feel pressured. I'm like, well, now I got to. Yeah, so I don't do a lot of that because I am that guy. So yeah, I'm familiar with the type.
Well, you're very familiar. I mean, yeah, to be fair, that is one thing that me and Randle like to laugh about looking back in that. But, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who play Football Manager who probably just get the sole enjoyment out of the scouting and buying players than actually going through with the saves. Yeah, because you do grow attached to players. So when it comes to like tactics, Zealand, and stuff like that, do you always kind of go for the presets or do you create your own custom tactics? Any tips and tricks that you'd give people on that end?
I do create my own. I'm not the best at it. There are people that are better than me at the tactics game. I've been learning. I've gotten a lot better this year. Maybe because this match engine makes more sense and you can like use the middle of the field again. But and also that's an ironic sentence since I had my worst performance in any streamer showdown ever. But I have gotten a lot better this year with the tactics. I made I found a tactic that just broke goal scoring records in consecutive divisions in Portugal. And then actually for the first time ever made a video where it was one of those that's like, this tactic will help you do this. And it's awesome. And it was actually my tactic that I'd like made,
That's nice.
That was the first time I ever made a video like that. And, it worked for people, which was good. But I think for me, some of the fun in the game comes from the creating a tactic and kind of the adjustment that's made over time, the balance between training players to your tactic and adjusting the tactic to your players to use their skill sets the best. But I think it is one of those realms where Football Manager gets really complicated and changes constantly. And so using a preset tactic, downloading a tactic, I never have a problem with anybody doing that. Unless it's on like the Streamer Showdown and you're downloading some tested just
no
gag and
wildy.
press, slap you around world-class tactic. Yeah. That wouldn't be too fun. But if you're just playing your own save, it is something that's super easy to pawn off. Like you can win the Champions League with one of the preset tactics in the game. You don't have to touch a thing. Just worry about getting the players in and roll it out. But for me, I love tweaking it in terms of like the tips. The middle of the field isn't nerfed this year. Through balls are back in, baby. So use
Good.
them.
Yeah, use them.
Our Blackburn save. So I'll let you into a little secret now, Luke. So our Nottingham Forest Blackburn save. You know how I score a lot of goals from long throw-ins?
Yeah, because it's horrible.
It was actually one of Zealand's videos that I picked that up from. With the long throw, you were that Portuguese team.
I've never felt so betrayed.
How many goals did I get from that? It worked. So big kudos to Zealand there.
I conceded to that. You scored past me on that.
It forces the goalkeeper to make a play, and sometimes they just don't because they're Allison or De Gea or somebody else that's just having it. Yeah, sorry, Luke. Sorry about that one.
Yeah, they're painful, man.
They come out and they just don't make. It's tough to always get your timing right and make the right decision. And so you get all the big bodies up there, put the ball into the mixer, and make somebody make a tough decision, and all of a sudden it pops free. It's in the goal. Yeah, it's ugly, but it is effective.
It got me 10 and 15 much needed goals. So. I applaud you for that. But I'm with you with the tactic side. So when I'm recruiting, I look for players that will fit my tactic. So obviously Gegenpress is the OP tactic this year. I like to tweak it slightly, so do a custom one. And then I'll buy the players and that will fit my tactic. So that's a big part of it for me, then going into depth with the corners and the free kick takers and stuff.
Yeah.
Utilise that and get the goal. So I do get a lot of enjoyment from that side of it.
See, that is something I feel like the older I've got, the less I've put time into and started going with presets, because I play Gegenpress preset and I just buy, obviously, the players to fit that system and I just let the computer do it for me. When I was younger, I spent way too many hours trying to create my own custom tactics and obviously put the players in and set pieces. And I'm like, right, yes, I'm like the next Pep Guardiola. I'm gonna do this. And then the older I've got, I've just become like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm a preset guy. I feel like, I don't know in the community what that would be like. I don't know how many people would be preset. I guess it depends what kind of manager you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, you can win Pep doesn't win every game. right? Even though he out-tweaks everybody. So there's something to be said. Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't a tactical genius. He just kind of rolled the boys out and said, we're playing a 4-4-2 or whatever. And he switched it up sometimes. He wrote the tactic on the board in the first game of the season, and they did the same thing all year.
Left it there,
and you just go with that. And if you're not scoring, put more strikers on the field until somebody scores a goal. And he's one of the greatest managers of all time. So
very true.
There's a lot of ways to get the job done.
Yeah, there really is. Like in the championship, I broke record. I got 107 points with a 4-2-3-1 gegenpress preset. So obviously, you can just get it done. But I think one of the things I think about when it comes to tactics was I used to use an old tactic back in the day that, well, I say not many people used. I don't know if many people used or not, but not many people I played with used it. And it would always be it was basically a 4-4-2, but you push one of the wingers high up, as into like an attacking mid-left role. And then I checked out one of your videos the other day, Daisy, and I seen you were playing it. I was
that's the tactic.
Works.
That's the what did I call it? The Dragon Ball Z or something? Is where Oriental Dragon. Yeah, no, that's the tactic. It works super well. Well, I mean, anything works super well if you have great players, but it's very effective, direct. Because that one guy up, it just provides the link to everything else, and it's the only time I've ever successfully used a wide target man. Because you aim for the wide guy. He brings it down. The center backs don't know what to do, especially if the wide guy's drifted into the middle and the people flying all around him, and he just holds the ball and picks one of them out. And you're rolling.
I can't believe that tactic still works. I used to love that tactic back in the day. The only thing that used to throw me off sometimes, because I used to think, well, it just doesn't look very realistic on the actual tactics board. Just got one guy up there, and the rest of the team's just obviously in their structured
You're thinking about
system.
the right back then, aren't you? Like, who's going to provide the cover there? So you're like,
yeah. So I remember back in the day, it used to try and go conventional tactic, like 4-3-3 or whatever, and then you just wouldn't get the results. Always revert back to pushing one of the guys up, and it just worked. I don't know what it is with that tactic, but if it's still working on Football Manager, I might need to experiment with it with the Forest team.
Yeah, it's always in real life and in Football Manager, it's just making life harder for the defense. Why, when I was growing up, the 4-2-3-1 exploded. Like, I can't remember who the first person was to do a 4-2-3-1, but all of a sudden the center backs, instead of dealing with two strikers who they were comfortable with and were right next to them all the time, they had to decide who was going to go get Ozil or whoever was standing in front of them. And in that process, it would all fall apart. And it's true. I think the advanced wing is all about making these people get out of position. Like, if you can make them uncomfortable, it's an old adage in one of the American sports in baseball, where there's a pitcher, it's like a guy throwing, and you can make the decision to take him out of the game at some point. And the old adage is never make the decision to make that makes the other team happy. Right? Never take the guy out if they're happy to see him go. If they want to face somebody else instead of him, leave him in. And that's kind of the same with tactics. Like, you don't let the other team get comfortable. Like, you roll out in a basic 4-4-2, you kind of know where everybody's showing up, unless you do some really funky things with your player instructions and your roles. Like, you know where everybody's going to be, what they're going to try and do. So I think that's why the 4-2 or like the 4-3-1-2, I think it is. At least that's what the game calls it. I think that's why it works so well, is because the fullback then comes in, the overlap's there, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, it's a nice formation, and hey, maybe one that me and you can try and stream, Randy. I mean, you need all the help you can get.
I might actually give it a try and see if I can get Blackburn firing. So there might be some more applause coming your way, Zealand, there if that's successful. One thing that with tactics though are fine. Like, so I said, I like the custom tactics, but I'm a sort of person that I'll play it all pre-season. It'll work. Go into the first game in the league, lose, and I'll scrap the tactic. Then think it must be the tactic that's wrong. It's not the players. It's not me as a manager. It's the tactic, and I'll just revert this and try all over again. I don't stick with it.
There's a lot of different arguments for this. There are a lot of people that change them too fast. I am always a big proponent of the process, because there is RNG in the game. It's kind of like playing poker, where you can do everything right and lose. And you have to learn when to not blame the tactic or yourself or really anybody. Like, the players, like, sometimes you just lose, right? Because every time somebody takes a shot from outside the box, it has a chance to go in. And every once in a while, you're going to play a game where you're a really good center back has a mare and somebody hits a banger from somewhere and you lose 2-1 and then there's, of course, the other type of game where your tactic sucks and every decision you make is wrong. And yet you get a lot of the RNG, so you only lose 2-1. So it's the same score, but you have to learn how to figure out whether it was your fault or not. And I think a lot of the art to the tactic is like knowing when a big change is needed, or when you try a new tactic and in one game you go, wait, this doesn't work. We just got lit up like a Christmas tree, whatever. Then you go back to what you had before. That's like probably one of the keys to playing FM is knowing
when to adjust.
Are we playing well and losing, or are we playing terribly and losing? That's that's the question.
Well, I think, to be fair to you, Randle, you made a good tweak halfway through the season and started picking up points on the last stream, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I find with Football Manager is that one formation don't necessarily work well throughout the season. I don't know if it's teams sort of counter it and find out, but like I played one formation, win 10 games, and started on a losing streak, so I tweaked it up and then started getting points on the board. So I think sometimes it does take that slight change to start winning again.
That's why you should always have 3 tactics up that aren't like the same thing with 3 different mentalities. Like you should always have 3 up so that your team isn't going, you know, what is this when you switch over to something slightly different for another game. Yeah, very true. Always have a plan B.
So just very quickly, I didn't know this, and I'm going to ask you, it might not be true, Zealand, but Randle, when doing a bit of research, started texting me. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know Zealand creator of FM Base."
Well, I don't know if creator, but something to do with FM Base.
Yes, something to do. The only reason I'm a YouTuber is because of FM Base. That is true.
Right. Okay.
I was on the FM Base stream team, which was, I don't even know what that was. It was just kind of a group of dudes who got along that streamed FM and happened and gained their legitimacy by being able to tweet out from an account of 35,000 followers, which at the time, as the way I understood like Twitch and YouTube and stuff, I thought was huge deal and awesome. And it really, that sort of thing doesn't matter if nobody knows who you are. And they asked if they were like, we kind of want to reboot the YouTube. They had this 7-year-old channel that had like 200 subs. They hadn't posted a video in like 5 years. And they had this channel. They're like, somebody want to run it? And I just said, yeah. And so until I hit about 30 or 40,000 subscribers, I think the channel was called FM Base. Yeah. And that is the FM Base YouTube channel. And at a certain point, I talked to the guys. I'm like, look, you know, I think I did better at it than anybody expected, including me, because this process was like October of 2019 was when I made my first YouTube video. And so it really escalated aggressively into like March and April, like 10,000 subs a month in March, I think. And so I basically, because they said it was basically my channel, I was like, I think I want to rename it. Like I'm never gonna have a website that's like Zealand Football Manager, because all of the stuff that I want to host, I put on FM Base. But I always owned 100% of the channel when I said I was going to take it over, and so we talked about it and I just kind of renamed it. But no, I don't. That was the conspiracy theory for a while, and kind of the reason the rebranding happened to Zealand was people were like, see, you own FM Base. I'm like, no. Like, I barely, even at the early stages of the YouTube, barely worked with the guys on FM Base. It kind of gave me a thumbnail template and the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And but I like something would happen on FM Base and they'd be like, what are you going to do about this? And I'm like, I have nothing to do with any of that at all.
Complaining to the wrong guy.
Yeah. There will still be years from now people that think I own FM Base, and that's just couldn't be further from the truth. The guys that do are awesome, love them, but it's not me. I don't own the website or anything. I just got handed the keys to the YouTube channel because I volunteered, and then kind of turned it into this unknowingly.
And it's been a great success, mate. Congrats on all your hard work so far.
Yesterday, we passed the Football Manager YouTube channel.
Nice.
So
nice job, man.
We have more subscribers than the actual SI Football Manager.
That's mad. That's mad to say out loud.
It was. I'm like, what are they? They only have 84,000 subscribers for. this huge game. So I'm like, hey, do you want me to run that for you? No. They just started up a tutorial series, which is a great idea. So
yeah, I think that's where I first saw the link when Luke said about, potentially doing this stream. I'd been on Football Manager base in the past and sort of seeing you on video. So when I seen you again, I thought, Zealand, I recognise you. And then I tracked back a bit and then noticed from that. And so I said to Luke, I think this guy was part of FM base. He's like, oh, I don't know when I found it. Yeah.
You scroll down the videos, it's all the FM base videos that I made there. And you can tell I made all the thumbnails because they're kind of the same. Like there's a line where like before and after we brought the thumbnail guy into the team. And that's usually where you can find like all the FM base videos. So you just go down and there's like all these kind of simplistic amateurish looking thumbnails. And that was me.
Well, man, you've done a great job with it, and yeah, your content's great. Not to kiss your ass or anything, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Go for it, man. Oh, yes.
Well, thanks for the permission. But no, yeah, man, you're doing a great job, and yeah, thanks. We really appreciate you for coming on to the podcast to chat a bit of Football Manager, a bit of football in real life as well. And we only hope that your channel, we're pretty confident that you're going to just keep going and going and going, mate, and keep building.
Hopefully, yeah. Take over the world with Football Manager, carrying the flag of Football Manager. That's the idea.
Exactly. Someone has to do it, mate. Someone has to do it. But yeah, everyone definitely who's checking this podcast out, obviously go and check out Zealand's channel. I'll put all links in the description below. And yeah, do you want anyone to follow you on social media anywhere, Zealand, or?
No, I don't want anybody to follow me.
Right, so leave him alone. You've been told.
Leave me alone. No, I'm contractually obligated to pay Reese and his salary, so please do follow me on social media. That helps with that.
Yeah, I'll put all links in the description below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe and comment with your thoughts on what we've covered today. What are your favourite tactics in Football Manager, all that good stuff, what got you into the game as well. And that will help our channel to grow, so we really appreciate that. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at CheckReachPod. And if you want to follow me and Randle, you can do. Where can people find you, mate, on social media?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all the social media sites.
All the links will be in the description below. And if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'm OutLoud, LEL3Ds, add a 9am for Instagram. And we also have a Discord where we're building a bit of a community. If you want to jump in there, have a chat and look to stream some games together, because we do stream every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, currently 11pm GMT, Twitch and YouTube. But anyway, once again, thanks, Zealand. Really appreciate that, mate.
Nice speaking to you.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it was good fun, mate. And we'll be back next week with some more gaming news, because that's what we usually do on this channel. So look out for that to drop. And have a good week, guys. Bye.
See ya.